Now, our next guest here in New York is Jamie Metzl. He's the Executive Vice President of the Asia Society, and he met Premier Yuan Jiabao last night before the Chinese leader met with President Obama today. Jamie also was in the State Department, was a Deputy Staff Director for the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and he joins Matt and me on set. So, Jamie, a lot of experience. You met with the Premier. I mean, what should we be taking away from all of this at this point?
Well, certainly the U.S.-China relationship is the most important bilateral relationship in the world. And how the United States and China get along will not only affect the United States, it'll affect the entire world and every issue that both of our countries care about. But there's a lot of tension. And this issue of the RMB is one, not the only, but one very important point of contention. And clearly, the RMB is being manipulated by the Chinese government, and there's a strong benefit to the Chinese government, but there's also a cost, and there's a cost in the United States, and there's a cost around the world, and these issues are now coming to a head.
How much is this currency manipulation issue, though just really a political smoke show? Because Yuan himself says, look, we're doing labor-intensive production here. If we weren't doing it, it wouldn't be done in the U.S. You would just be importing goods from some other country. So it's not really about that. And also, obviously, they're not going to shift 20 or 40% currency in a very short period of time.
Yeah, well, that is true. And it's not just a U.S.-China issue. This is a global issue. And the United States needs to be careful, because if we just focus on the American issue, we're going to miss out on that. Because there are a lot of people who are worried. And if you are a developing country other than China, your biggest fear is the only future that we see for ourselves is delivering natural resources to China, because we can't compete in producing anything with China.
Jamie, you met with the Chinese premier last night. How much of what we're seeing here publicly is just politics and what they've got to say to the press? I mean, are there true tensions between the two countries right now?
There are real, meaningful tensions, and there is also a relationship that is deepening and growing. I think both of those things are true, and both will be true, and we need to get used to that. So on one hand, the United States and China are coming together and trying to find common ground on a lot of issues. We're very important trading partners. We're complementary trade partners.
China needs the U.S., U.S. needs China.
Absolutely. I mean, they need us probably even more than we need them, but the truth is we both need each other. But then on very big issues like nuclear proliferation, we're seeing China not doing that much to keep Iran from getting nuclear weapons. On North Korea, on pressing Burma and North Korea on human rights issues, China isn't stepping up to the plate as a global power.
You said China needs the U.S. more. Does the premier acknowledge that in your meeting?
Yes, and in his remarks last night at the Waldorf, he talked about this, what I would characterize as complex interdependence. Both countries need each other, and these guys are very, very smart leaders. They get that. They know they need a strong relationship with us, which is why even on the RMB, they are very conscious of the pressure that's brewing, the anger that's brewing in the United States Congress, and that is going to have an effect on China's behavior.
Let me ask, what would happen if they unpegged the yuan to the dollar? I mean, if they let it float,
right,
where do you think we'd see it move?
You know, there are a lot of debates about that. I mean,
what would the velocity be?
It would be very, very quick. I mean, China also has capital controls, so they control some of the in and outflows of currency. But let's just say that it appreciated by 20%, as Premier Yuan said last night. That would lead to unemployment within China. But over time, that unemployment in China would shift to employment, partly in the United States, but also elsewhere in the developing world. And what we would see is more of a balanced global economy, because I don't think it's great.
So you do think it would make a big difference in the trade imbalance with the U.S.?
But not the trade imbalance with China, yes. With the world, less so. But I think that's a really important issue, and that's why framing it in the context that it's just about America's workers, I think, is the wrong context.
So many folks have come on and said, you know, you can't pressure the Chinese. You got to let them do it at their own time. Is that just BS, or is that true?
Yeah, well, BS is a term of art, but I don't think that's entirely true, because China, I mean, like every other country, they have their interests, and they say the front position is you can't pressure us, we're just going to do it. But that's, you know, everybody would have an interest. I mean, I'd like to say that about a lot of issues, but in the truth of the matter is they are very dependent on other people, and they're susceptible.
I wonder what you think about the choices that the president has, because Mark Dow at Faro Management points out that Obama isn't ready to expend his political capital to buy time for China to move its currency. He's really being pressured by Congress.
He is being pressured by Congress, but as I said before, the United States can't and probably shouldn't do this alone. This is an international issue. We need to use mechanisms like the G20 to build and put pressure on China. And for the United States, there are a lot of things we need from China. We need China's support on Iran and nuclear proliferation. There are a lot of tensions brewing in the South China Sea, and we are a stakeholder in helping to diffuse those tensions. So again, it's a complex and very interdependent relationship, and we can't get caught up on any one issue, although the RMB issue is critically important.
All right, Jamie, thanks so much for joining us. Jamie Metzl there with the Asia Society.